So, okay, these are set up. It's fantastic. And then that one's going already.
Did I move?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're perfect. I'm just gonna get this audio going on this bad boy, and then have a great time and chill. Got some new batteries for this thing. Check, check, check. Okay,
Check.
All right, guys. So we are here with the renowned sculptor Ramon Byrne in his studio here at Art City in Ventura, and I kind of just wanted to. I'm really excited because we're going to be doing a piece together. We're doing a collaboration, that is, with. So he sculpted this. He proposed an amazing collection of sculptures called Composed in Stone. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so one of those pieces is called the Tribute to Jimmy, right? Which is this amazing guitar, actual life-size guitar composed of a single slab, a single piece of white Carrara marble. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we're just hanging out here on this amazing Sunday afternoon, and the idea is to interpret this. The first piece that we're doing together is the Tribute to Jimmy, and interpret that as a brooch, as a pendant, as something you can wear on a hat or a piece of jewelry. So here we go, man. I appreciate you hanging out today, Ramon.
Thank you, Pasquale, and welcome everybody to Art City, Ventura, California. And,
It's so lovely here, man. It's so tell me, I know. Are you originally from Big Sur, that area?
no, I'm born in Lone Pine, California,
Okay.
and lived in Bishop, California.
Oh, Bishop.
And when I was first grade, moved to Southern California, Orange County,
Nice.
and was there until I was 17. And when I was off out in the world, in the Army for a year. And when I was 19, right, 19, I moved up to Big Sur.
Gotcha. So
And,
right after high school. So after you came out of the army, right?
Yeah. And then
Cool.
got to Big Sur and lived there for 35 years, raised a family, and
Wow.
had a career in business. And then approximately 21 years ago, I moved out to Ventura to be here at Art City.
Awesome. So you've been here in Art City for a little over 20 years.
Yes.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to actually, make the tribute to Jimmy piece? Like what compelled you to say I want to do that?
Well, I had I was inspired to create a music composition, and all I knew originally when the idea hit me was that there was all life-size instruments, and there was all I knew for sure is that there was an upright bass woman in the middle.
I got it.
And as one piece evolved, then the next piece evolved, and so when it came to filling out the pieces, and I thought of a guitar, I don't think there was any question as to whose guitar it would be and what it could be, because Jimmy was such a dynamic player, and his guitar work and the flaming of his guitar was so iconic, and then I was able to. There was a lot of activity on the guitar itself, with pickups and knobs and
Sure.
and the head and whatnot. So I just I had a lot of playroom, so to speak.
That's awesome, man. It's probably one of the most incredible pieces I've ever seen, you know, and just like the flames going up the neck, and the you know the feathered serpent that becomes the eagle at the top, and man, I mean, I can't even imagine how long it took you to. We're talking about just hundreds and hundreds of hours, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, it's all hammer and chisel work, and I do all my cleanup with by hand, you know, with abrasives, and yeah, and it's for me, it's very meditative, and I do a lot of stonework, stone carving, sculpture,
yeah,
fabrication, and a lot of times those are time and budget sensitive issues.
oh, 100%.
And so,
yeah.
so I have a whole array of tools that I use, grinders and air chisels and drills and whatnot. But when it comes to doing my personal art, I prefer to do it all by hand. I'll remove mass volumes with a power tool.
Gotcha, like removing the slap, all the unnecessary pieces of the slap, for instance, like getting the brooding or whatever it's called, like the main, like general area ready.
Yeah, and but anyway, so the time thing is just can't really enter the equation, and it doesn't have a place in this kind of work. So.
That's cool, man. I think like the idea of time and space, like when you're in the flow, when you're in as a musician, as an artist, as a sculptor, like they do cease to exist, right? Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and so what becomes, like, for me, like, I guess playing a wrong note or something, like, I don't know, for some reason, for me, like, the risk of the confidence and the self-confidence and the, like, is it, like, because you're taking away from the stone, you're taking away a chunk, piece by piece, like, for me, it's amazing how to, like, your mindset or what's going on in your mind, like, you're just sure of it, like you just keep going, you know, like how does that, you know what I mean, like that, from, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's pretty awesome because you work in a medium that you can't really like paint over the painting or like, you know, take the track over again if you're in a recording studio. Oh, I didn't like the way I played drums or congas or whatever, let's take it again, right? Like you have this piece of stone in front of you and you're chipping away at it, and you see like what's inside of that thing, like the guitar, for example, like what goes through your mind, man, when you're just working? Like, is it?
Well, yeah. When it's when you start, you're using a big hammer and a big chisel, and you've got a lot of room, so it's pretty aggressive. And you can work into the volume of the stone. But once you get down to refining the forms, then it gets really to be like a chess game or a game of pool.
Wow.
Whereas you just got to realize that in a chess game or a pool game, when you blow a shot, the other guy's gonna win if he's really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so you have to be totally focused, like a chess game,
Wow, that's cool.
where
man.
and then what enables that focus is techniques. So that if you once you have a technique and a method to your carving, there there's I don't know what you call like there's like a format for where you're at. So
Yeah.
when I'm close quarter carving, detail carving, I have a particular rhythm and a particular control that's dictated by what I'm doing.
Mm.
So if it's a real small intersection or something, I'm trying to clean up a line and be real accurate, get a nice clean line.
Mm-hmm.
The one rule is as hard as you're going to hit it, if something jumps, when I say jump, sometimes there's an anomaly in the stone, maybe a little softer spot or a harder spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so by a real controlled strike and force, you're not really going to hit too hard. You're not going to blow anything out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always working at a particular angle into the stone. You're never hitting on the end out. You want to come in. So there's a lot of techniques and the method itself.
It's a lifetime of learning, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like, right? I could imagine. That's awesome, man. I really love the going back to the tribute to Jimmy piece. Just the amount of movement with the flames and just that piece really came alive for me, man. And I that's what really resonated so much with me. And I don't know, I'm just really fascinated, man, because you're also a guitar player. Like,
Yeah.
and so like your insight, your perspective on that piece is, you know, from the perspective of a sculptor and a guitar player. So like, I don't know, what are some of your? I just want to get inside of your mind and your heart about, because this piece is like, it's absolutely phenomenal, man. Like it's one of a kind.
Well, one aspect of that piece is that I did a scale drawing of a Stratocaster.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So
Scale meaning the actual size.
Full scale drawing.
Full scale
1-to-1.
drawing.
And so that guitar is, I think it's 39 inches. I think that's what that is on that.
Right.
And the thickness, the location of the bridge and the knobs and the pickups and the
Everything.
jack, those are all where. So to me, even though I was taking this instrument in my own interpretation, there's components of it that someone that's played a Strat would realize that everything is set up.
Sure, everything is there
Like
where
the
it's supposed to be,
bumps,
right?
the pickups, and
The tremolo.
yeah, is a lightning rod.
Yeah, man.
And so that was important to me because it's in all the instruments. The upright bass, she's life size to scale. She's obviously
Sure.
my interpretation, but there's a certain. I think I just wanted to respect all elements of my interpretation, even the scale of it, even the format. I think it's part of my technical background of being a builder and laying out a lot of buildings. And I love geometry,
Sure.
geometric forms, and just how I see things.
Yeah, like with symmetry and the proper proportions and I get that. That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate it, and like, I guess, Diamonds in Music, we are jewelry brand, a record label. So we're doing jewelry, we're doing music. Like, from your, perspective, or from your heart and mind, does music actually come into play when you're sculpting? Like, in a direct way, indirect way, like the whole thing of improvisation, right? Like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is do those two worlds ever like converge for you?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of my favorite things of music is the brain activity. It keeps me so sharp, and it keeps me because I compose a lot of my own music, and so I have to spend time working out melodies and structure and things like that, and it's very detail oriented. It's one note at a time is very similar to one chisel at a time.
I got it.
If you counted all the counts in a song,
Sure.
and then what it took to put that all together,
Yeah.
there's a lot of activity, and
I got it.
yeah. So that activity directly relates to how I do my design work.
Wow, that's cool, man.
And also on the flip side of that, improvisation is the flip side of that. And it's like, to improvise, you want to know what you're moving from.
Okay, yeah.
And so I look at like the theory of music and the mathematical associations are important to know.
100%.
And when you are well equipped, well versed in how that works, then you have greater control over improvising, because you have a platform from where you're going, and it gives it a way of relating to a structure without being confined by it.
Right, I get that, man.
Yeah.
I always say, like, you've got to know the rules before you can break them.
That's right.
Or you can break them without knowing the rules, but it sounds and looks different. It's going to be a different thing.
Right. So there's so I do a lot of work that requires drafting fine lines and having a very clear picture of where I'm going. Now I may work from that, but I really, when I did my Jimmy piece, I really needed to know where I was going with that.
100%.
So I did a lot of drawing, a lot of considerations, and
That's cool, man.
and it still left me a little room to add or take away from what my original thing is, but I wanted to be strong in that original idea.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's a type of carving that I really enjoy, where I call it going fishing. And there's a renowned California sculptor named John Fisher, and he's a master carver, and he had the method that he introduced to me and some of the guys from our city, and it's where you just take a block of stone and you set it on your workbench, and you just randomly remove a third of that stone without any kind of conscious consideration.
Right.
So I use that idea, and how I do it is I'll take a chisel and a hammer and have my stone laying on the workbench, and I'll just turn my back on it,
Just
throw
come
my
around.
hammer, and wherever that chisel lands, I'll just start blasting.
Yeah, yeah.
until I've removed a sizable chunk of it.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
just trying to make it small, I'm trying to disfigure if it's a square or a block or whatever.
Wow.
And then I'll just continue to do that and flip it over, maybe blast some out and turn around, hit it again, you know. And then when after you think you've removed about a third of that stone, you set that stone and you walk 10 feet away and you look at that stone. And then you walk on, flip it over, and pretty soon you'll see something. And if you see something, whatever you just saw, it's 75% carved. It's like a technique that Leonardo used to do. He mentions many times in his writings of seeing blotches on walls, stains, knot holes, different things, clouds. And he would say that if you're sitting here and the clouds roll by, and I said, wow, that looks just like a buffalo, look. And if you looked up, you would see the same buffalo I see. And the human eye, our brain, fills in information for us. So it doesn't take a lot to see a buffalo. And what you're seeing is the most primary components of it. You're seeing a head,
Yeah.
and then you've got to see that kind of big butt, a big shoulder body, and a small ass. And there's not much more to a buffalo than that.
Right.
And so the same when we, so that carving does the same thing.
That's so amazing.
And then you look at it, you go, oh, and then all you got to do, John Fisher claims sometimes it's only 10%.
Wow.
And you could release that, what you just saw.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other side of carving, and I find that fascinating. It's so fun because usually when I carve, when I go fishing like that, I carve things that I never in my life would have thought to carve.
Gotcha.
Because I'll put in things upside down, sideways. It doesn't matter. It's and so it's really fun. So
that's awesome. I wasn't even aware of that, man. It's so cool to like have these exercises where you can, kind of follow this protocol, like with going fishing, for instance, and like you said, the finished product is something that without that would have never came into being. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. And
I
so
love that.
so when you think of a group of people improvising together on an instrument,
Same
a
thing.
lot of times the drummer will just start doing something, and then he may do it for 5 minutes and it don't work. And everyone in the bass player's over there doing something it's not really happening yet. And no one cares. No one
cares. You're right.
You're not there yet.
You're not there yet.
We're still just
cooking.
knocking a few things off the edges here and there. And then all of a sudden, one of those guys is gonna just do the right addition, just take off that last chunk.
Right.
And now we can see it.
And
now you start moving in.
I love
to
that.
And music is
Wow.
It's funny because whereas if I'm carving and I get into a curve in music, they know which curve you're going to. And the bass player knows in his interpretation, but he's felt these grooves. We've all felt these things. We've all had these images. So musicians, when they click, they have this extra little thing where so I can start a curve, dude, and all of a sudden some guy's jumping in, throwing hoops into it.
Yes.
And the other guy's chopping, but it's like we're all sculpting together in the moment, and it's still without a blueprint. We're still just
Wow.
so
I
that's
love that.
music, Rudy and I, you know, and my, uh, we play and carve together on the same piece all the time. It's kind
Wow.
of amazing. So
Wow.
it's definitely, you know, attached to how I play music.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I didn't realize like the depth of that because it was kind of just like a something that popped into my mind. But like, yeah, that's great, man. I always say that you know like having that basic mathematical. Okay, this is kind of where we're gonna go, or not. Like I guess just the just let's just go. The idea of just putting your whole heart and soul into it without any attachment, without any like
No
okay,
agenda.
or like you know beating yourself up or like no I didn't play that right or I didn't do that right or I didn't you know execute this rhythm correctly on the congas or whatever like when that is removed then like then I guess artists you can do it without any worry about making a mistake and I think that's really like that's really important. It's also like you're talking about like you know sculpting being meditative for yourself like I think that's another connection between sculpting and music is like the it's self-healing. It's actually like every time I sit on the drums man like after an hour or two or whatever I'm doing like I feel 100 times better you know like my heart my being my whole like yeah it's just wonderful it's literally like you know medicine you know
Yeah.
and so I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about I know you really respect a lot you know when you were starting to sculpt and all that like a particular wood sculptor in Big Sur is that right?
Yes.
Can we talk about him a little
Yeah.
bit?
That would be Edmund Cara.
Edmund Cara.
Yes. Kara.
Edmund Cara. So what year are we talking about that you started to like learn from him and kind of go under his tutelage?
I
Like
think it would have been about
early
70,
80s?
77, 78, maybe.
77.
The latest, probably
Okay.
77.
I think I may have still been in diapers at that point, man.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
this is up in Big Sur, is that right?
Yeah. So I was working in the family business of masonry,
Ah.
and we were doing, you know, all forms of masonry, and we got a call to go look at a job. I went with my dad to look at a job, and there's a beach in Big Sur called Shipwreck Beach,
Shipwreck Beach.
and it's not really public access to it. It's up you go up a private road, and anyways,
Wow.
and this it was about a 600-foot cliff, I believe, probably.
Whoa.
It drops down to the beach. Maybe it's 500. I don't know what it is.
It's pretty tall.
But and it's a good angle like this. Near the top of it was a little ledge, and this Edmund Carr, this artist, had built a cabin there,
Whoa.
and with a studio, carving studio, nice cabin, you know, and it was perched right on the edge, and the foundation was giving away, so they called us in to look at it. Anyways, we went to the job and looked at it, and upon arriving, the guy had kind of a barn structure attached to the house with huge barn doors that opened up, and when he opened them up, it was his carving studio. And it was, he had a lot of work, finished work in his studio as well as it was his working area, a large work table. And when he opened up those doors and I walked in, I was overwhelmed because I never physically walked up on life-size sculptures before.
Sure. And this is all wood, right?
Yeah, it's all wood.
That's the only medium that he worked with.
That's all of his movement, yes. And so the piece that struck me at that moment was a heroic sized single piece redwood of Moses.
Whoa.
It was about 7 feet tall, probably.
Did he have the commandments in his hands? Or?
Yeah, he was standing kind of like this, and he had the 10 Commandments in one hand,
Wow.
and he was pointing down like this, and his beard was flowing back like a real wind, and his hair and wrinkles and sand. I mean, it was phenomenal.
In wood.
Wood.
He carved this out of wood.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, one single piece of redwood.
One single piece of redwood.
And so we ended up doing a job there. It was about 2 months. It was longer than that because we did some stonework. It was 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And every day I'd sit there after work, and then finally we finished the job, and I just kept coming back. And I, 3 or 4 days a week, I'd head over there when I had time. And, just sit in the stool and watch him work, and he hardly ever talked. And for about a year, I would just go in there and sit there and watch him work, and he'd take a tea break, and we'd talk for a few minutes, and then he'd go back to work. And about a year into it, I finally got to sand on some pieces.
Just sand.
And then
After a
eventually-
year of watching it and observing it.
Absolutely.
That is mind-blowing to me.
And it was so beneficial. I never knew it at the time, but how much I absorbed by watching him, because I would get to not only, I wasn't so much getting to sand even so much, but just being there in his presence.
Sure.
And watching his whole process. He'd start with an idea, he'd sketch it, and then he'd do a cartoon, which is a scale pattern drawing, and then he'd transfer that pattern to the wood, and then he'd do his initial cutting, and then I was absorbing all this.
Sure.
And then eventually, like I said, about a year later, I got to sand on things, and then I would get to clean things, forms up with a, riffler. It's a file for wood carving, called a riffler.
Riffler, yeah.
And that was about the extent of actual work I ever did with him. He was, sculpture isn't a place where when you're doing fine art sculpture that you really want someone working with you on it. It's a very intimate thing. You don't need help in that energy.
Gotcha.
So I never contributed to the finishing of his work. He did all his own work.
Sure.
I was just blessed to. But like some of the things I learned, probably the most important lesson I learned was Edmund, when he laid a pencil to a paper, he never told me this, but I just absorbed it. I would watch it. Every line, every time he laid a pencil to the paper, he invested all of his integrity, all of his commitment and passion. And what I came to see and realize and understand was that that's how the process of real creation is. It's like that when I do my work now and I lay that line down, that represents how I'm going to approach this, how I'm going to finish it, and everything by that first line.
By that first line.
Is it clean? Is it crisp? Is it read? Is it saying what I wanted?
Yeah. As the starting point of the whole thing.
It's the whole thing.
Versus, I don't really need to put much effort into it, and that is reflected in the. Wow, that's huge what you're talking about.
and then it just
as an artist, as a musician,
it carries through.
It
Every
carries
part,
through.
So the rest of the time,
Wow.
and by feeling, it sounds weird, but by feeling so much immense love for your ability, your discipline, your consideration, by really honoring all that,
It's freaking amazing.
you put that into the work itself, and it just comes out that way. And so that first line is just followed by more,
Yeah.
and it's all fluid, and it's the the best you can do with what you're put to
With
do.
what
And
what
it's
you
not
have,
comparative best
Yeah.
for anybody else in the world.
Right.
It's only for you.
It's only for you.
You know, and for me, I have my certain standard and certain things, and what
Wow.
requires what amount of what I can muster up for it.
Sure,
and
at that moment,
that's my
yeah.
parameter, you know.
And that's your parameter. I love what you talk about, like the integrity that and the honoring of your own creation, and like literally giving everything to that, and not worrying about anything else, but just like with the knowledge that like from the very beginning, like I'm not gonna skip any corners or cut any corners or take any shortcuts,
Yeah.
because the whole thing is a reflection of that,
Yeah.
or not.
That's
You know,
right, yeah.
that is so mind blowing.
Yeah.
If anything, like from this whole talk today, man, you literally just blew my mind with that, because I don't know, like as a musician, I really think that's true, man. You know.
You know, I noticed that, and it's funny, but I just became even more aware of music, of an aspect of music by carving. A lot of times when I'm carving, there'll be little intersections or details that are so small, you know, on a piece, and I'll be on one area of it, and cleaning up that small spot sometimes is it's like hearing a piece and then you hear one note, and that note rings true and it rings long, and it just one note, and there's been all this activity, and the consideration to that point is like. And so I was playing some music the other day, and I was realizing, oh, you know, I could go there a little bit further in my music, because I just did it yesterday when I was carving that out. I had this spot, I was, man, I got myself in this, and that's got to clean up now.
Yeah.
It's. And when I got it cleaned up, I was so happy. And no one in the whole world will ever see that spot except me.
Except you.
But if I didn't clean it up, they would know.
100%.
Right? It would be that one spot.
Oh, what happened there?
Yeah, what happened there? You know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I think it's great how you keep unfolding, like, your self-expression and your creativity in these, you know, seemingly very different. They're not, because it's you. Like Ramon Byrne, man. This is Ramon Byrne, and you guys have to check out his website. I'm going to share everything. It's been an absolute honor to be with you today, and I really, every time we meet, I light up, man, because you have so much energy and so much love for life, and I to say that I have like benefited from us knowing each other, man. It's so wonderful to have met you, and like I'm really looking forward to doing some cool stuff together, and sharing with the world what you do, man. Because for me, like the minute I saw that collection, you know, a few years ago, and I'd come here to give you guys a little context with, you know, Ramon and I's friend, Rudy Calderon. He's another incredible sculptor and musician as well, and we had played together at the House of Blues many years ago, and the point is that I was here with a buddy of mine, and we were, you know, playing some music here at Art City, and then we just, he's like randomly, kind of nonchalantly was like, hey, let's go check out, let's see if my friend Ramon is here. And Ramon was in this building, the gallery, and I think if I'm not mistaken, you had the whole like composed in stone collection, which consists of the upright bass, and I'll share the link and all that stuff. It's an upright bass, it's a pair of congas, the tribute to Jimmy, guitar, saxophone, which is kind of like a cubist, which you had mentioned that the reason that came out that way is because of the stone. The stone like dictated that form. And then there's a few other pieces, an accordion, and then is it called a sousaphone? Sousaphone. And a violin. So there's a total of, is that 8 pieces?
With 2 drums and 7 others.
Gotcha. Yeah, and for whatever reason, like I was drawn to the tribute to Jimmy piece, because for me, like all the other pieces are absolutely phenomenal. I'm not saying like, oh, that's the only one I like. What I'm saying is that it's literally on fire, man. Like, and all the video footage of Jimi Hendrix that I've seen and listening to his music, and recently I got a double album that he had released, his family I think released later. It was just blues, just Jimi Hendrix playing the blues, man, and there's no other artist like Jimi Hendrix, and there's no other artist like Ramon Byrne. So have a nice day, everyone. I'm looking forward to creating a lot of good content and just bringing that integrity and authenticity and creativity that Ramon was mentioning, like, to this thing called Diamonds in Music. So sayonara.
I'd like to thank you, Pascal.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, my friends. It's been a real pleasure.
Are you kidding me? It's my honor, brother. So thanks, bud.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn everything off, and then I'd like to get a few photos of you, man, because like when I was talking with you